Fishing in New England, it's pretty special. From lazy Vermont trout streams to surf-pounded Cape Cod beaches, marshline Connecticut tidal creeks to deep-water Maine lakes, inshore, offshore, freshwater, and salt, few places compete. This is incredible action. And the species: stripers, tuna, fluke, salmon, trout, pike, even mahi and marlin. New England's got them all. I'm Tom Richardson. Join me as we explore New England's great fishing destinations, chase its many species, and forge new fishing adventures on New England Fishing.
November can be a bitter month for most New England fishermen. The days are noticeably shorter and chillier, the trees barer. Gone for the most part are the warm Indian summer days of October and the mid-fall blitzes of albies, bass, and blues. It's a time of winding down, of putting away boats and gear, of bracing for the long winter ahead. I say most fishermen because there are always a few diehards who find a way to prolong the inevitable, who just can't bear to throw in the towel. And for these folks, there's tautog, or blackfish, as the species is known west of Rhode Island. With their blotchy skin and crazy protruding teeth, all the better to eat shellfish with, blackfish are far from glamorous. They're a tough, no-nonsense kind of fish, as are the anglers who pursue them. Anglers such as Captain Chris Landry, a former charter captain who works at Atlantic Outboard in Westbrook, Connecticut.
Hey, Chris.
How we doing, sir?
How's it going? Well, you brought the kitchen sink.
Hopefully we can get something with it today.
Everyone thinks, tautog fishing's real basic and send down a crab and, voila, you're going to hook up, but you need a lot of stuff, right?
Well, sometimes it can be very easy, but most of the time not. So
that's excellent. We ordered up a great day for it.
We got the weather, and now we just need the other part.
Let's go. Well, let's go find that other part.
All right, we'll do our best.
Excellent. Let's go. So how's the fishing been, dare I ask?
It's been pretty good. They recently just had a tournament that Atlantic Outboard put on through Bill's Seafood. The winning guy had a 13-pound and a 10-pound.
13-pound?
Yeah.
I'd settle for half that today.
Yeah. And then a charter boat friend of mine out of Orient, he had a 15-pound on Sunday. Mm-hmm. A lot of the guys are still fishing the shallow water breakwalls, picking away, seeing a big fish here and there. We're going to see if we can get on a piece of structure out here about 60, 65 feet. Mm-hmm. We may do a little stemming at the beginning of the tide before we have a lot of current. If the fish are there and it seems worth the anchor, we'll set up the anchor once we get enough current, see if we can pick away. Show you guys a couple nice fish today.
Excellent.
The waters of central Long Island Sound boast some of the best late-season blackfishing in the region, especially when it comes to large fish, and Landry knew just the spot to find them, a long underwater ridge known as 6 Mile Reef, just a few miles off Westbrook. The reef and its surrounding waters feature several rocky high spots, as well as a handful of wrecks, all of which provide prime structure for blackfish.
Well, I got something.
Now, if you really hook into a bigger fish,
Not very large.
Yep, it's a start though, and it's the right
it's a
species.
start, and it's a blackfish.
All right, come on. Yep. If you take a step back, I'll swing them in for you.
All right, well, we're on the board with
About the first 45 seconds in the water here, we got our first fish.
Sweet. So we're gonna go back up and stem the tide again.
Yeah, when you're stemming, like we did, we hooked up, and then the boat was in neutral. Now the boat's drifting. If you have your track set up on your Garmin GPS, you'll see the direction of the wind and the tide influencing the boat. This will better help you when you try to anchor up on the spot. You know how far up ahead you need to get, and you know the angle at which the boat will lay back, so you can figure out where you want to drop the anchor.
Very good tip. So once that sinker hits bottom, do you put the reel in gear?
Yes,
Yep.
keep it in gear, and you're going to want to just keep the line tight. I tend to tell people to keep the rod tip low, so
Yep.
you know, with the chain hook, you have room to lift up.
Right. Not so much. It's not so critical with a circle.
Right. You just want to keep the line tight so you can feel the bite, and with these real sensitive rods, it certainly helps. And that's a better fish. See if we can drive the boat and fight a fish at the same time.
Well, you know, you're the master. A little bit better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're getting bigger.
I like that. They're getting bigger.
Well, you started with the small one, so we can only go up from there. All right, we'll try a drop here.
Okay. That's a serious anchor you have there, my friend.
Yeah, I like to oversize it so it's one and done.
Yeah.
On the drop.
Tell us about the anchoring system, why you like this setup right here.
So this is probably one of the most important parts to the whole recipe for catching blackfish. I use an oversized anchor. You know, we're fishing a 26-foot boat here. This could hold a 38-foot boat. But when you drop this down, it grabs and you're not dragging anchor. The worst feeling is when you get on a wreck or a piece of bottom, and then all of a sudden you're sliding off because your anchor's not biting.
The wind picks up, the current picks up,
Right.
and suddenly you're off, and you're like, no,
Right.
now
So now you got to redo it. So the reason I use a plow anchor, I've bent plenty of your standard
Fortress anchors.
Fortress or
Fluke
your
anchors.
fluke anchors. You're always bending them if you tweak them the wrong way. I go with a breakaway system. Blackfish, and you're trying to find structure. It's not just like you're going to the beach and anchoring in the sand.
Right.
The idea is to grab into some structure. Sometimes they don't come back as easy. So
They don't want to give up.
this is an
the anchor.
expensive anchor. It's an expensive setup with the rode and the chain, so you got to protect yourself if you do snag. So what I've done is you do a connection here up on the front. Most anchors will have a place to do that. If not, you could drill one. This is a Delta plow anchor. You run the chain back down the spine here, and this is something I do. I haven't seen anybody else do it. I just use a hose clamp. It's strong enough that you're not going to be popping it all the time. All that pressure is focused right here. Something's going to break. It's going to break right here, and then all the tension is right here, and it literally reverses the anchor up and out of the wreck.
That's very clever. Yes.
So-
Well, good. That could potentially save you a very expensive anchor system. What do you got?
Close to a keeper, and
Yeah.
I think I have no problem with my keeper.
Oh yeah, that's a nice one.
Another nice white chin fish. Kind of one after another at this
Yeah,
point.
that's good. Yeah. So it's really critical to be right on the piece of structure, right? I mean, if you're off on muddy bottom, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, so when we dropped, we're probably about 25 feet from exactly where I want to be. The piece of structure is about 25 feet to the north right now. So with the current, it's sliding us farther and farther south. I'll motor the boat, even though we're on anchor, we'll slide the boat back over it, we'll do a drop, and if the current and the wind continue to bring us back off, we'll reposition the anchor so we can get on it better. You can see as the bottom got softer, our bite kind of shut off.
Exactly. So you really need to take the time to do it right. I mean, don't be like, oh, you know, the fish will find the baits. You know, take the time to pull the anchor, drop it again, get right on the spot, right? And like we discussed, probably the hardest part of this type of fishing is anchoring. You know, we're in 60 feet of water. This piece of structure is very small, so if you're not on it, you could be wasting time. We'll probably reel these up in another second here. I'll slide the boat over. We'll drop a fresh crab down and see if they're still there. Yeah, and you're a big believer in the fresh crab. Don't put down one that's been soaking down there for a while.
If you bring up the crab and it still has all that orange and all the color on the inside of the body, I'll send it back down. But if all that's washed out, I like to throw on a fresh crab.
Yep. So you got your green crabs, and so how do you prepare them before you put them on the hook?
A lot of guys have their own recipe. The way I like to do it, get a good pair of scissors. I shear off the legs. Some guys will cut them in half. I like to, if I'm blackfishing, I like to see how big of a fish we can catch. I like to fish the whole crab. To bait the hook, what I'll do is I'll separate the top from the bottom. Some guys will just take a sinker and crack the shell. I like to separate the whole thing. Okay.
So you take that carapace right off there.
So you take your hook. This one happens to be a circle. Some guys will fish circles or J hooks. I have both today.
What size circle is that?
This is a 5.0 owner circle hook. The other ones, the J hooks we're going to be using are the owner SSW 5.0s, and those have the cutting point tip, which is my favorite for blackfish. Two different ways I like to hook them. Some guys will come in through the leg socket and then up with a perfect size crab like this. If you get a good blackfish, that's a full mouthful.
So that's the perfect size crab.
Perfect size. If we get into some bigger fish, I'll start searching for the biggest crab I can find in the bucket. Come up right through the middle, and then you want the hook tip kind of buried, but right in the middle of that nice color from the body of the crab.
Sure.
What's going to happen is the fish is going to come in. Again, they're real territorial. They're gonna figure out what's down there. Okay, now we got edible stuff. They're gonna come in, hover over it, and they suck it up in their mouth. They have front teeth that'll start breaking it apart, and then in the back of their mouth, they have some crushers. Now, there's gonna be sea bass, porgies, blackfish. The blackfish is gonna be a real solid thump, okay? And
so you wanna wait
for that. That's the game. That's why blackfishing is challenging. When do you set the hook? You're gonna wait for that solid thump, and then give it a pop. As soon as we get down, we're getting mauled here. This is like what blackfish dreams are made of.
Yes, it is.
Good weather and a good bite.
And you'll fish like this right into December? If you get the weather,
usually I'll start to call it quits the first week of December.
Well, it does get chilly.
You know, one fish after another.
Let's keep that one.
Okay.
All right, so we're not messing around with any small fish. So what are we gonna show them here, Chris?
Try to pull out a decent sized crab here.
So we're gonna really serve him up a meal, huh?
You shear off his legs.
Yeah.
Try not to get bit. You do it quick. Pop his top.
Yeah.
Obviously there's fish here.
Yep.
And we're gonna try to just separate the little ones from the big ones here.
The men from the boys.
That's right.
All right, this is it, baby. Mambo crab's going down, and the big white chinner is waiting for it.
There's your.
Is a totong, or blackfish, as you guys call it.
That's what we came here for.
Oh my God! Look at that.
So there's
That's the biggest blackfish I've ever caught.
Well, we're about 35 minutes into the show, so
Oh my
see if we
goodness!
can beat that.
Look at that. That's amazing. Wow, that is a sweet blackfish right there. Long Island Sound blackfish, that's what we came for, right?
Yep. A few minutes from the dock, left Atlantic outboard, showed up here 10 minutes later, into the fish immediately. And that's what every guy's looking for. So that could be a fish of a lifetime for guys that do this
I'll
all
tell
the
you,
time.
that's the biggest blackfish I've ever caught.
Awesome.
Wow, that is something.
So Chris, tell us about the type of gear you like to use for blackfish here.
I'm more of a Shimano guy myself. I like to go with the lightest outfit possible, but it has to be strong enough to first pull a big fish out of a wreck or a reef. But if you have to fish heavier sinkers, it's got to have enough backbone to do so. Right now, this is the Travala S rod, matched with a 12A Trinidad, both by Shimano. This is a 12A Trinidad. This is more their little higher end rod. It's a little lighter. It's called the Game Type J.
It's amazing. You know, it's remarkable how light these outfits are, because everybody thinks you got to go out after blackfish and use big heavy boat rods and these big, coffee grinder reels and stuff. But this is amazing, and there's so much more fun to fight a fish on this light stuff. And the drag is really smooth. But you like it locked down pretty tight for.
You obviously have to have some give to it, but you don't want it locked, but you want it tight, because as you saw, you have a big fish. That thing, as soon as it knows there's a hook in it, it's going to dig down into that wreck, and if you don't have enough torque to get him out of that wreck, he will cut you off. There's a lot of sharp objects down there, rocks, all that stuff, and you get one nick on the line and you have the drag too tight, it will pop it. So it's a delicate balance between a tight drag, but it still can take line. And if you immediately feel a blackfish and you got a fairly tight drag, and it's taking drag, you got a big fish.
a good one.
So once you get them up, say 10, 15 feet off the bottom, then it's just steady pressure. You don't want to yank on them, just turn the handle.
Okay.
A lot of times you'll see the fish get to the top, and then as soon as he sees the surface, he'll bulldog you all the way back down to the wreck. And that's when it's fun fishing 60 feet of water, because there's that water column where you're fighting the fish.
Right.
Braided line technology's come a long way here with the line. It used to be, everybody used to fish with the mono, heavy duty mono.
Yep.
This is about a 8-pound diameter line, but it's 45-pound test. So when you're fishing vertically over a structure, you're not getting the scope that the mono would traditionally do. This will cut through the water.
End of the braid, you've got a swivel on here. Not a big one.
Yep, do a barrel swivel. You don't want it too small that it'll pass through the guides, because then you'll tend to rip guides off. You want a Spro swivel, strong enough swivel that, if you do hook into a big fish, you're not bending swivels. This is another trick that not many people will do. I actually double the line for about 2 feet.
With like a spider hitch or something?
It's called a surgeon's loop.
Oh, okay, surgeon's loop now, yep.
Double it up, and then you double the line right to the swivel, and then I'll go through the rig I use. I use 80-pound mono. Okay, I'll walk you through how to tie them.
Yep.
Then I'm using a 5.0 Owner SSW cutting point.
Offset,
J hook. Best in the business. Owner does a great job with these hooks for blackfish, and they stand up. We were fishing a wreck that's still sharp enough to scratch your fingernail. So this is a good hook that stands up. So.
Yeah, and then you got a simple dropper loop tied right about a foot above the hook.
Yeah, so the idea is your sinker's going to sit here. Okay, I give myself plenty of leader, so if it's chafing against the wreck, it's not directly on the thinner braid. You got a little more beef with the 80-pound. So your sinker's going to sit here. Your crab's going to present off away from the sinker a little bit, and then obviously you just wait for that bite, and then once you pull the hook, I got a snell there, so it's in line. It's going to come tight and put a 10-pound blackfish in the boat.
That's right.
With some bruiser blackfish in the cooler, Landry and I hauled anchor and headed back to Westbrook Harbor, happy to have made the best of such a fine fall day, and happy in the knowledge that I had a new hotspot where I could extend the season just a bit longer.
Dude,
I'm good.
Chris Landry. Yeah, I'm a believer, man. You made a believer out of me. You guys really do have some world-class blackfish fishing right here off of Westbrook. It's, yeah, hey, 10-pound fish. I can't argue, right?
First drop, got right on them.
I know.
Plenty of bites, plenty of keepers.
Yeah. Well, you led the way, man. You know your stuff. Now, blackfishing for you, this is your thing, man, right? I mean, you're really passionate about it.
I like it. It's a challenge. I mean, there's a lot that's involved with it. So, you know, I obviously like straight bass fishing, but blackfishing, there's so many variables.
This is kind of near and dear to your heart, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Some guys go out and they get lucky first drop, they're into fish, but if it's a challenge, you got to be ready for that variable. Okay, the wind picks up, and now you got to go heavier sinkers. And say you break off a couple on a sharp piece of the wreck, and the bite's on. Do you have a backup rod? Do you have the rigs tied? Do you have plenty of sinkers, plenty of crabs? Is your anchor heavy enough to hold you in that extra current and tide? So
yeah. Well, and you mentioned though that you know when you go out, even though you've done this hundreds of times, you're always learning something new, right?
Right. That's the idea. I mean, if you're not learning something, you're not doing it right. You got to go out every day, try to learn something, make yourself better, and that's basically what fishing's about. And so a lot of our customers, they get frustrated, they go out and they don't catch something right away with their new boat or something. You got to tell them, as long as you go out and you learn something each time, that's what it's all about. You're not going to be an ace your first time out with, you're not going to catch all the fish on your first trip with your new boat. You got to go out, spend some time on the water, learn new techniques, learn new spots, mark your spots. Are you doing it right? Maybe not the first time, but as long as you're learning, that's what it's about.
Well said, my friend. Well, thanks so much for taking me out blackfishing and getting me my largest blackfish to date.
Well, there's always next year.
I'm coming back.
All right, man, thanks.
Well, that's a wrap on another action-packed episode of New England Fishing. To learn more about fishing in this great part of the world, be sure to check out newenglandfishing.com, where you can access loads of articles, recipes, videos, gear and boat reviews, and much more. And don't forget to order your copy of New England Fishing Magazine, a big, bold, glossy publication packed with articles that'll help you catch more and bigger fish all year long. Until next time, I'm Tom Richardson for New England Fishing. Thanks for watching.